I wish to extend a very warm welcome to all the distinguished speakers, experts and participants to the roundtable on decarbonizing real estate sector in Pune Metropolitan region. This roundtable is organized by PIC in collaboration with VKE Environmental. Globally, the entire life cycle of the built environment accounts for more than a quarter of the greenhouse gas emissions and about 40% of the combustion-related emissions. This topic is of particular importance for the Pune metropolitan region, as over 2/3 of the region's infrastructure is yet to be developed, and several old buildings of the city are heading in for redevelopment. Our previous research has shown that infrastructure and building sector in PMR has the potential to save 45% of the GHG emissions by 2030 from correct implementation of several building codes and green building practices. I am Sanika Portnes and my colleague Megha Fadke, we will be moderating today's discussion. Pune International Center is an independent policy think tank working in diverse areas such as social innovation, national security, energy, environment and climate change. The aim of PIC is to provide a platform for open discussion and debates, collaborate with academia, think tanks, government agencies, and industry bodies to delve deep into relevant fields of policy research. Today's roundtable is organized by the Energy, Environment, and Climate Change vertical, led by Professor Amitav Malik, in collaboration with VKE Environmental under the leadership of Dr. Purva Keskar. I would now like to introduce our chairperson for the roundtable, Mr. Ranjit Naik Navre, Director at Naik Navre Developers and President of the Confederation of Real Estate Developers Association of India, CREDAI Pune. Committed to designing and delivering a better living for all, Mr. Naik Navre has fostered the creation of a brand that is equated with integrity and reliability. His contribution to promoting the development of the real estate sector in Pune, enthusiasm for bringing awareness and adoption of new technology and automation in the construction industry have all been instrumental in making Pune one of the most livable cities in the country. We are happy to extend a very warm welcome to you, sir. Yeah. I would now like to introduce our keynote speaker and collaborator on several of our previous environment and energy related projects, Dr. Purva Keskar, Director of VKE Environmental. Purva ma'am is an ESG strategist, NABET accredited Environment Impact Assessment Coordinator, educator and author of numerous articles on the practice of environment design and environment management. She is a recipient of many coveted awards and honors nationally and globally, and serves as an expert on various boards and committees such as the Bureau of Energy Efficiency, Griha Technical Advisory Committee, IGBC Pune chapter, just to name a few. With a view to contribute towards urban sustainable development, she has formed an NGO called the Sustainability Initiatives. We welcome you, ma'am. Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot. Moving ahead, I would like to welcome the Head of Energy, Environment and Climate Change Research Vertical, Professor Amitav Malik. He is the founding trustee of the Pune International Center. At 82 years young, Professor Malik has had a long and illustrious career spanning across defense research and technology, diplomacy, administration. He is a recipient of the Padma Shri and served as a member of the National Security Council and numerous other national boards. Born and raised in Pune, Professor Malik has been instrumental in making environmental protection a key matter of India's national security, and he has authored 7 books, with the 8th one incoming next month. He is a visionary behind EECC's flagship project of making PMR net carbon neutral by 2030, and it is under his leadership that Pune hosts India's first carbon neutrality cell. Welcome, sir. I would invite you to speak a few words.
Thank you. My personal welcome to Mr. Naik Taware and my good friend Purva and her all friends here. Or I'm given to understand that it is the first time that the think tank is wanting to analyze the building and infrastructure sector, and therefore this roundtable today, which incidentally is the second roundtable of the day. The first one we had on renewable energy microgrid. So it's all connected with our initial project, the flagship project, which I proposed in 2020 to make PMR net carbon neutral by 2030. And this was the call given by the IPCC. The next 10 years will decide the future of the mankind. So I said, okay, then PIC should do something, and the best way to do is at your home. You prove what you are preaching, then maybe people will believe you. So of that project, which Sanika has already mentioned, and I think I've floated in the document also. The key finding of that project was very interesting. We charted out a rapid decarbonization pathway for PMR, Pune Metropolitan region. And our detailed analysis, which is now documented and well accepted, shows that the total carbon emission of PMR in 2030 can be less than it was in 2020. So it was a serious study that proved that serious and dedicated carbon reduction can actually bend the curve, which is going up exponentially, and we are now talking about going back to 2020 level. Imagine if many cities in India and many cities in the world follow this model, then I think we will be doing an absolute human service to humankind. I think we are all aware that being a security expert, I sensed this in 1966 when I was part of the National Security Council. And since then, of course, it was more about, to begin with, it was more about energy security. But then slowly it dawned on me that there was a book published in 1999 in USA by Pentagon, Weather as a Weapon. And that weather as a weapon brings out that not only we should reduce carbon emissions so that we don't suffer the negative impact of climate change, but Pentagon wanted to go further and research whether such weather modifications can be engineered to get an edge over the enemy. So that is how I became sensitized, and I sensitized the National Security Council. In the process, when I looked at the energy security of India, that time definition was how much oil reserve, how many days of oil reserve. And I was aghast. Mind you, this is when we had the renewable energy ministry, we had the energy efficiency focus, everything. But then nobody has put two and two together. So I take pride in trying to do that at the National Security Council. And since then, I became a convert, a defense technologist, a laser scientist, became an activist for climate change. So energy, environment, and climate change, the division and the initiative that I took under the PIC that we created for this kind of work was admittedly my brainchild, And we got very quickly busy because see, that time everybody was talking about the, incidentally, PIC director is here. Our original director, Prashant Gidwane, has now become the General Secretary. We started in September 2011. So very quickly, in 2012, we had organized a conference on energy, environment and national security. That was my contribution as PIC trustee, and fortunately, having worked with Dr. Kalam for a long time, I was able to persuade him to come to Pune, and he used to call me buddy. So we were like that. So while his concluding remarks, and Prashant, who is not here, he reminds people everywhere. In Dr. Kalam's concluding remark, he said, Amitabh called me and I came. Now he's saying, asking for advice. What advice should I give? That was his style of talking. I think the best advice is what you want to achieve, do it at your own. So he said, show me what you want to get done in all over the India or maybe even the world, do it in Pune. That's how we started on this flagship project. Coming back to today's theme, the project analysis shows that besides electricity and transport, the largest emission sector is this building and infrastructure, as Sanika just now said, around 37%, or whatever if you want to. So it's one third, roughly. And we are not really looking at it seriously because, and it should be a more serious affair, because whatever we do in the building and infrastructure sector remains there for 50, 70 years. Then of course, now we see there is a spate of redevelopment effort going on. And that even in the redevelopment, we are not able to find that focus that, okay, now we have a second chance, let's do it right, let's do it low carbon. Even that's not yet happening. So I'm giving you the rationale why we are together here in this room today to deliberate on understanding the seriousness or the value of making building an infrastructure really sustainable, and that can be really sustainable only when it is low carbon. And of course, there are 2-3 issues of it. One is design, architects. Other is material, choice of material. Third is the design of the building so that you need less energy, so you become more energy efficient. And of course, redevelopment or reuse is part of the circularity that we must build within the sector. My colleague Anika and Megha, I know she just went out. So they have done some good research. We are very lucky to have Purva Keskar as a friend, and she and I decided that we must have at least a round table for 3 hours and look at it seriously. So today we are all here together to do that. I'm extremely happy to have a person like Ranjit Naiknaware, President of CREDAI, to chair this round table, and we will go according to the. I'll hand the mic back to Sanika. But before that, would you like to say a few words?
Should I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, good afternoon, friends. A warm welcome to all the guests here. Our panelists, of course, Professor Amitabh Malik, Dr. Purva Keskar, Dr. Sunita Purushottam. I think Sandeep ji is missing, Mr. Sonigra.
He's on the way.
He's on his way, so he might join us soon. And Mr. Ganesh Jadhav. So, firstly, to PIC and MCCI, thank you very much for inviting us. Before I get into anything else, let me just preface my address by saying that I'm no domain expert at all in this. These are now uncharted waters for a lot of us. Real estate is, as always, getting organized, but we are still not there. And we were trying to in the last 3 or 4 days, and thanks to Professor Malik, who very sportingly shared some information on carbon neutrality. And then I am also grateful to Anshul Gujarati from Eco Solutions, and our own Pranati Shroff. I don't know if Pranati is here. No, I think she's not.
Our colleague is there.
So.
With us? Yeah, there.
Okay, so Pranati Shroff also is from CREDAI, and she's one of our members and a very active proponent of sustainability solutions. So, thank you and a warm welcome again to all the guests and audience.
So we'll ask you to speak and then again.
Yes, yes, yes. So I'll just make it very short. There are various numbers thrown at us, and this was again an eye-opener for us, that real estate can contribute anywhere between 26% to 39%. 39 is as per McKinsey report, to the emissions in this country, and also in Pune correspondingly. Pune is growing at a huge pace. I mean, we don't have to even think again that Pune is the fastest growing city in the country. We are adding almost a lakh of homes every year, and that's really huge. There's so many people who are flocking to Pune that unless we address this issue at the legislative stage, at the design stage, and make it compulsory. Hi, welcome, Sandeep ji, welcome. So unless we make it statutory and mandatory, I think the enormity of the issue is so high and so big that we will miss the bus, and our all targets that we may set in a small closed door rooms like this will only be just that, the targets. I mean, if we have to achieve this, we will have to work at all fronts, and these fronts being whether it is manufacturing of real estate materials, whether it is the construction of real estate that we are undertaking, or whether it is the operation after we have handed over the project. So at all fronts we will have to educate the entire society, because the contribution is going to be from across the board, and unless we can evolve that kind of a ethos in our population, we are likely to miss the bus. The Prime Minister has, obviously all of us know, committed that by 2070 we will be completely carbon neutral. At CREDAI we have taken a pledge that we want to hasten this process, and when I say at CREDAI, it's not necessarily CREDAI Pune I'm talking of. We are talking of CREDAI at a national level. We want to hasten the process and bring it down to even earlier to 2050. But the enormity of the challenge is severe, and if we don't take this seriously at this stage, we will be left floundering in this aspect. So thank you again for bringing this whole issue to center stage, Professor. We are committed to working with you. CREDAI is committed to working with PIC, and if think tanks such as you, PIC and MCCI guide us, we will
PIC and VKE.
And VKE. All right, thank you. Thanks for the correction. So if think tanks like VKE and PIC can guide us, we would be happy to get into a collaboration with all of you, and we would require you to not only educate us, but also our consumers, our suppliers, our vendors, because unless the regulation will come when it does come. Let's not get into as to whether we want the regulation, don't want. Speaking as a developer, most developers don't want any regulation most of the times. So we leave that aside for the minute. It will come when it has to. But if we can at least start with an education and make it mandatory. We have done, Anshul has shared some details, and the cost in itself, whether it's for commercial or residential buildings, of converting it maybe not to net zero, but to a reasonable amount, at least reduce it by 50%, which are the targets that we have set at the first stage. The costs are not much. You will end up the developer will end up paying only about 20 to 25 rupees, whether it is residential or commercial. And if the air conditioning has to be completely removed, then and we have air cooling systems or whatever else, then another 20-25 rupees will be added. Is that right, Anshulji? So it's not an enormous cost in the overall scheme of things, but lack of knowledge is what we are grappling with, and we'll really like PIC to help us in this. So thank you all, and I think these were just my opening remarks. I'll come back as we go along.
I would like to now request Purva ma'am to please give the keynote address.
Yeah, can we have the presentation, please? So before the presentation goes on, I'm really honored to collaborate with PIC, and having such a partner. We have been working in as consultants for many years, and we work with projects. But when when are we really going to accelerate things when things get inserted into policy? And I think that is the kind of winning combination of PIC and BKE, where we have the ground level expertise, and PIC has a lot of expertise in terms of policy and how do you really make a policy work and implement and get executed and finally get some benefits of that policy. So really honored, Amitabh sir. This entire flagship project which Professor Amitabh was talking about, we were involved as a very small part of it, where we started looking into what would be the carbon emissions of the real estate sector in the Pune metropolitan region. And the idea was to develop alternative scenarios as to if the carbon emissions is X, then what do you do to reduce the emissions? And when we talk of emissions, I'm just going to set the context for people who don't know the basic things of what could happen in the real estate sector if it wants to decarbonize itself. So with that, I'm going ahead. We are all living, so this works, right? Yeah. No. So can I get some help, please? Okay. So these pictures that you see are typically, in our urban areas where the population is a lot. We are struggling in terms of housing. The transportation and the traffic jams are now everyday scenario. And this is a thing that is happening to the waste that we create. So water scarcity is also going to hit us like anything, and I'm sure that everyone knows that, the next war is going to be fought over water. Now, how does this relate to what the PM really wants us to, work on? And our Prime Minister has set the target for us getting as a country to net zero by 2070, and he has come out with 5 different actions that one can take to go to that level. Also, one understands that India is the, 5th largest carbon emitter of the world. It's the 4th biggest emitter of the world in terms of carbon dioxide emissions. And who is responsible? So finally we understand that the urban areas and the city is a hotspot of CO2 emissions in terms of, man-made fossil fuel usage, in terms of, using conversion of land from agriculture, from vegetation to buildings and to real estate, as well as the transportation that we are using, and what are the ways that we can really, what ways can we adopt to reduce these emissions. Again, there's some issue. Yeah, can I go there and sit? It's okay.
You bring your laptop here.
No, sir, actually the wire for
No,
the
I could say next because.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, so city and we as urban dwellers are the main people who are contributing to carbon dioxide emissions, and generally the 6 priorities that emerge are energy and building, sustainable mobility, sustainable waste management, urban greening and biodiversity, urban flooding and water resource management, and air quality. And you will see here that energy and buildings feature on the top, so next please. So we have been talking about the emissions from the building sector, and if you see the global sector-wise emissions, you will realize that it goes almost up to 39%. And in India, if you see, we are contributing to almost 32% of the carbon emissions. Next, please. Now, why everyone has started focusing on buildings? The International Panel for Climate Change came out with this report which said that if you want to decarbonize the different sectors, then building and construction emerges as a sector which would require very less inputs in terms of financial investments to become net zero. So that is where the policy is now focusing, that buildings and construction sector, if it takes the first step, we are going to have it done at very less investments. Next, please. So what are the different carbons in buildings? One you have is the embodied carbon, and the next is the operational carbon. Next, please. So here you will find that operational energy efficiency has been focused on for a very long time by way of green buildings. We have been looking into, looking at solar passive measures for your architectural designs. We are looking at energy efficient building systems as well as, renewable energy. Next, please. So when you start looking at these two aspects, and when you start looking at the Pune Metropolitan region, we started looking at this entire region, which consisted of Pune Municipal Corporation, Pimpri-Chinchwad Municipal Corporation, 7 municipal councils. So as you all know, the definition of PMR, that is a region that we have considered. And then we did a kind of computation of what would be the existing built up area. We got some data from the PMC as well as PCMC to compute that. Yes, next please. And this is a methodology that we use, that we took this entire, built up area. We computed what would be the, built up in 2030. So what would be the additional built up in 2030 depending on different typologies. So you have residential, commercial, industrial, institutional, and each would have a energy intensity which is slightly different from the other. Because of the functional use that happens in the building, the energy intensity basically would be the EPI, which is Energy Performance Index, which is the energy consumed per square meter per year of different typologies. So we calculated that and actually did a simple mathematical calculation to figure out what would be the energy intensity, or rather the total energy requirement of the real estate sector in 2030. Now one understands that 80% of the carbon emissions of any kind of 80% of the carbon emissions from the real estate sector can be accrued to energy usage. So the concentration was more on energy, because the moment you target energy and do energy conservation, you're automatically reducing 80% of the carbon emissions from the real estate sector. So we computed that, and we are just going to show you what we found out. Next, please. So here in PMR, typology-wise existing carbon footprint, you will realize that the residential is the highest, followed by the public and semi-public sector, then the commercial. You will find that commercial works out to be lesser because the amount of commercial which is right now existing as well as proposed in terms of area is less. Even though the carbon intensity of a building would be more, the area is less, and therefore the computation shows that it's slightly lesser. And finally the industrial. So when I say industrial, I'm not considering the process energy, I'm just looking at the building energy, which is where the processes are being housed. So here existing carbon emissions, you will realize that almost commercial and residential are taking up almost 50% of that entire pie. And PMR is expected to grow at a rate of 28%. Next, please. So with the projection, you will realize that we have a long way to go in terms of, if you look at building as, I'm not able to, okay, I know what I'm going to say because it's too far. Anyway, here you will find that even when you start projecting to 2030, the residential sector would have larger, contributions to carbon emissions, and so on and so forth. While as on the right, you will see that if we look at the different types of fuels, so electricity, diesel, and other types of fuels which are being used, electricity is the primary culprit in terms of the carbon emissions. So we started looking more deeper into the energy usage. Next, please. So now, when we start looking into energy and electricity, is there something available in terms of codes and schemes by the government? So yes, in 2007, Bureau of Energy Efficiency, Ministry of Power came out with a code called Energy Conservation Building Code 2007, after which around 6 to 7 pilot studies were done with the government buildings, and the feedback in terms of financial feasibility, in terms of technical feasibility was given as a feedback to the government, and proud to say that VKE was responsible to give this feedback, and ours was the first building which was completed in 2012, which was 2007 ECBC compliant in Karnataka. Further to those comments, in 2017 ECBC 2017 as a version came in. Once this realization came in that residential may have very less unit energy intensity, but the scale or the number is really high, government thought of addressing that typology as well, and they came out with a code which is called as Eco Nivas Sanhita Residential, and that was done way back in 2018. That addressed the architectural aspects of the building in terms of orientation, in terms of material use, so on and so forth, in terms of openings. While as the common area, lighting, the pumping, transformer, all those energy systems of the building was then addressed in Eco Nivas Sanhita 2021. So these codes are very much existing for last 4 to 5 years, and we have not done anything further to that. Bureau of Energy Efficiency way back in 2012 itself came out with a star rating for buildings, and they have different typologies, and they do give star rating, like a scheme which was brought out by the government to rate the different energy appliances like air conditioners. So BE has also come out with a star rating for buildings. Further to this, please. Next. This is a building passport which has been developed by Bureau of Energy Efficiency, and it talks about giving a passport to individual house in a society or in an apartment. So an entire apartment may not get energy efficient. A house in the apartment can also wish to become energy efficient by doing certain things and getting a passport kind of a thing, and further to it they can put a plaque outside their own house like a nameplate saying that my house is 4-star or 3-star or so and so forth, and be a proud owner of the house in terms of being responsible. Next, please. There are other voluntary systems which are developed by private organizations, which are LEED, IGBC, Griha, GEM, EDGE, and many more. And these are right now really very promising because they have a good take up by the developer community, because it gives them an edge over others to say to showcase their responsibility. So these rating systems are right now very much in use, and I'm really happy that Pune is one of the cities which has the highest number of rated buildings. Next please. Just to give you an idea, you can go to net zero. This is a building right here in PCMC, which was designed by architect Usha Rangarajan. Next please. So the plan was done in a particular way. Next please. The envelope was designed in a particular way so that less heat would come in. Next please. Yes, next. So here one does simple box energy simulations to understand what would be the energy bill of any building even before it's constructed. So architects can really make use of this to see that the energy efficiency is embedded in their design itself. Next please. Even simple things like shading devices would give you a saving of 8.11%, which was a finding after doing the energy simulation. Next please. At one end you're trying to look at the heat, the other end you're trying to balance the daylight, because the more the daylight that you get in, more the heat also comes in. So that balance is also very important. Next please. So here again, when you start looking at air conditioning, which is one of the most important aspect to be considered in terms of energy consumption, there are different ways that air condition could be designed. You need not only think of chiller based air conditioning systems, you could have evaporative air conditioning systems, you could have earth air cooling techniques, which are low energy cooling systems, which are prescribed by the energy conservation building codes. Next please. So this is something in construction where ground cooling was done. Next please. And the renewable was also fitted on the building. Next, I'm not going to go into detail. I'm trying to show you that something with an energy intensity of 175 kilowatt hour per meter square per year could be brought down to 10.67 kilowatt hour per meter square per year. So with that kind of a thing, it was the first platinum rated LEED global building in Pune, and I would say in also Maharashtra. Next please. So when you're doing a net zero building, it does not mean that aesthetics have to be compromised. Next, I'm just showing you a few pictures. Next. Now here we come. Now this is a scenario building that we did in collaboration with PIC, and we said that okay, now in 2030 if the stock is going to be so much, and you start looking at mandating green building certification. It's just a scenario, okay? We are not saying that you mandate. It could be taken up as a self commitment as well. So if you start self mandating green building certification for your project with a minimum gold or 4-star level rating, then there is a possibility that in the residential sector you can save around 50% of operational carbon. So that was a finding after doing a lot of mathematical and building energy simulations. Next please. Okay, yeah. So then we started looking at, if we do something like this for the commercial sector, then what is the saving? So here was a different scenario where we found that 53% of operational carbon could be saved, and if you go in for low energy cooling systems like evaporative cooling, like your earth air cooling, then there is a possibility that you may be able to save 95% of your operational carbon, which means that you're moving towards net zero. Next. Now, if we are not looking at green buildings because these are offered by private institutions, what if we take up the codes which are developed by the government for us? So we started looking at Econivas Sanhita as a code if applied for residential buildings. There also we found that 45% of carbon emission reduction in terms of operational carbon could be achieved. Next. The second scenario is that you start looking at Energy Conservation Building Code 2017 application to non-residential commercial buildings. And here again we found that there are aspirational levels in ECBC. So if we are able to, go to the very minimum level of aspiration, you are able to save around 45%. And if you go to a slightly higher level, then you are able to save around 55. And with low energy cooling saving, you will be able to save around 75% of your carbon, operational carbon. Next. Now, yes, we are talking about new buildings. The codes are being developed for new buildings. The green buildings do address the new buildings as well as the existing buildings. What if we try to address the existing building stock which is very much there in PMR? What could be the scenario? By very, low-hanging fruits, if we start looking at maybe just changing the appliances in houses, if we start changing the lighting that you put in the houses, there are BLDC fans which are available. If you can look at heat pumps instead of your regular split ACs in your houses. So similarly for commercial, small, low-hanging fruits, if you start implementing in the existing buildings, there was a possibility of reduction of 45% of operational carbon in existing buildings further to the implementation of these measures, and 56% reduction in operational carbon in existing commercial buildings. So next please. Now we have talked about operational. Why don't we start looking at the embodied carbon, which is the materials and all the energy that is put into the buildings like a capital investment at the first go, even before, during the construction of the building, even before the building gets occupied. Next. So this is the embodied energy reduction which is possible. Next. So here when you start working, there are different ways in which you can integrate, recycled material. Here a ground granulated blast slag, which is a waste from the steel industry, is used, and it is used for a high-rise building, not a low-rise. It's a high-rise building in Mumbai, and this project is almost complete. It was the first project to, experiment with GGBS. And next please. So we did a little bit of calculation as to what is the reduction in embodied energy. Next please. So here we found that 40.8% of embodied carbon reduction is possible in structural aspects of any building. Next. Also, when we start looking at non-structural applications, there is every possibility of integrating waste as a raw material and use this concept of circularity, and you are able to reduce almost 84% of your embodied carbon when you start looking at non-structural elements and components of a building. Next, please. So this is one more project right here in Pune, which used the industrial waste again, which is a Puzzolana, kind of a cement. Next. Next, please. So here again you will find that, embodied energy reduction in structural application could be possible to 30.2%. Next. So it's just showing you how the mixes are designed, because generally when architects go to the RCC designers, you find that RCC people are not ready to integrate and use such kind of materials in their mix, talking about safety and security, but things have been done, codes are already available, so you might as well use the codes and design buildings and convince the structural designer to do so. Next. So now when we start looking at PMR, again a methodology which was very scientific, we use that methodology to find out what would be the reductions. Next please. So here you will find that strategy to decarbonize embodied carbon for residential, commercial, industrial and semi-public and public. So we found out that, there are, if we look at many scenarios, say 3A, 3B, 3 and 4. So 3A is moderate in interventions through low carbon green materials and improvement in current construction practices. So simple low hanging fruits, if we do, what is going to happen? The other scenario was slightly innovative measures and ultra low carbon materials and construction practices. And finally, net zero embodied carbon, which at times seems to be impossible. Next. So this was thought of in terms of low hanging fruits. So current practices which can be continued or enhanced, and maybe recycled content which is generally proposed by any green building rating system could be used here. Next please. So this is moderate interventions. You can go through this in detail. I just would like to show you what is the result. Very low hanging fruits. Next. This is for innovative measures, and you will see that reduction in embodied carbon in if you have building as usual is very high, somewhere around 65 lakh tons of carbon, whereas if you are going to use moderate interventions, you are reducing it by 15 to 20%, and then with new building stock with really high level of innovations and interventions, you are able to reduce it almost by 30%. Can you move later? Further. Now, when we start thinking of making our building sector completely net zero, there are challenges. So what can one do? Renewable energy, of course, is possible. but renewable energy addition beyond operational energy offsets to cover the extent of embodied carbon emissions would have to be thought of. That is not going to be enough. You will also have to look at carbon sinks and look at tree plantations to offset embodied carbon emissions. And further to that, which is right now a challenge, is availability of green grid electricity for construction. So not only during construction, but also during operation, if we don't have the green grid available to us, it is going to be slightly difficult for us to even, get our embodied carbon to zero. Next. Yeah, so some, positive impacts that we could achieve. Can you go further? So energy savings of whatever work that we are doing. Next. Carbon emission reduction of almost 83,000 metric tons per year. Next. 20 lakh kiloliters of water saving per year. Next. 10 to 15 lakh kiloliters of wastewater treatment. Next. And around 90,000 metric ton of organic waste being treated on site every year. So that kind of an impact each of the consultants present here is trying to achieve, and I think a solid backing of the policy by way of PIC would really help us go the long way. Thank you.
Thank you for the comprehensive presentation and the keynote address. If anyone has any questions, really quick questions before we start with the presentations.
We are going to follow a different format. After every presentation, we'll have Q&A. Not at the end. So this was an extremely wonderful, comprehensive presentation by Puraji. If there is any quick question without wasting too much time, you are welcome. Otherwise, we move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So what method we followed right now is that Bureau of Energy Efficiency, Ministry of Power has come out with this 5-star rating scheme, and they have given certain benchmarks for different climate zones for different typologies. So that was one figure and number which could be used as a benchmark. Second is we collected electricity data is easily available on MSCDCL websites. So we collected certain bills of different commercial buildings, of residential buildings, and then we averaged it out to figure out what could be the benchmark for, and we realized they are a little different. Okay, what B says is different, what we found out is different, and then we thought of kind of looking at a middle ground, because the residential sector benchmark given by B is slightly higher than what we saw as being consumed in Pune by the residential sector. So we came to a middle ground and decided that this could be looked at as a unit intensity of buildings for residential sector.
Okay.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. My name is Rohit Kumar Singh. I have two questions. Sorry for that. Basically, first question is like in the overall initiatives that you mentioned, one thing which I believe could have been included was the inclusivity component, because with sustainability what I saw was there was a lot of cost associated with it. So what would happen to people from low income society, and how would the inclusivity fit into it? And second question after.
So this is a very answer which is very close to my heart, because affordable housing, generally if you look at the resources that these people are consuming, is pretty less, first and foremost. What they are lacking is the indoor environment quality. So when we are talking of energy usage, at one end we are also balancing the indoor environment quality in terms of thermal comfort, in terms of visual comfort. So this balance of comfort and energy usage has to be sought, and when we were doing this, generally we look at comfort as well. So when we start looking at affordable housing, I think the key is to look at climate responsive architecture, so that the people living in affordable housing get good light, good ventilation, and that is at no cost. So that is the key, to really address sustainability in low cost or rather affordable housing.
Okay. One more question. So basically, you also mentioned initiative related to water conservation in the overall sustainability landscape. So how does the water conservation fit into from an individual perspective and from a policy level perspective? I just wanted to get into deeper what you mentioned.
I will just give you what I know about. Basically, when you say water, what can one do at an individual level? We all know that low flow fixtures are available. If you are staying in a house which is pretty old, better check what your flow is of your fixtures. If it is more, there are simple aerators which cost you somewhere around 90 rupees per tap. You can insert them and reduce your flow of water. So that's the first thing one can do at an individual level if you're staying in an apartment, because you don't have control over what the entire common infrastructure is. If you're in a bungalow or a single housing, then there's a lot to do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Move forward.
Would you like to add something?
Can you move forward? Yes. Anything?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of nexus between water consumption and electricity as well, because more pumping is required if you are going to consume more water, and that directly affects your energy consumption.
Okay. We'll move to next.
All right, thank you, ma'am. So we'll now be starting with our presentations. The way the sessions are organized is we have 3 topics, and we would like to welcome our 3 speakers. Dr. Sunita Purushottam is going to be talking on embodied emissions. Mr. Sandeep Sonigra is going to be talking about operational emissions, and Mr. Ganesh Zadav is going to be talking about sustainable redevelopment. So after every presentation, the floor will be open for a quick round of questions and discussions. I would now like to introduce Dr. Sunita Purushottam. She's the head of sustainability at Mahindra Lifespace Developers. Dr. Purushottam has over 25 years of cross-sectoral and global work experience in the field of sustainability. She heads the sustainability and CSR at Mahindra Lifespaces and chairs the board of Global Building Performance Network. She is a public speaker, author of several white papers, scientific publications, and collaborative research works. She is instrumental in formulating the Decarbonization Business Charter to facilitate net zero transitioning in the building and construction sector. Dr. Purushottam is a recipient of the IGBC Fellow Award and has driven sustainability strategies for companies in construction, real estate, IT, just to name a few. She has driven sustainability business strategies, sustainable development, and corporate social responsibility across UK, United States, Mexico, South Africa, and India. I welcome you to speak on the topic of embodied emissions.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here, sir, and amongst all the people out here, and wonderful work. Waiting to get hold of the presentation, and then wanting to bug you more that how do we take it and socialize it much more, because like you said, strategies, there are many low hanging fruits and it can be done, and what I liked was the positivity of how to do it, and it can be done simply. And to the point you made, that what is the cost per square foot that we are going to incur as a developer? I work for a developer, and that question is continuously asked, that how much is it going to cost us? Well, our journey at Mahindra Life Spaces, I would like to say that we have taken a few commitments, and that's what I wanted to share in the beginning. And if you can go to the next slide. I'm more comfortable talking about operational carbon, because embodied carbon is what I am stealing your thunder. But the reason why I'm No, but let me cover what I have, and then I'll tell you why I want to talk about operational carbon. It needs to be spoken about because, like you said, there is a low-hanging fruit out there. One of the questions that I keep getting asked, yeah, climate change, heating ho raha hai, and it's going to get worse. So, I mean, it's a no-brainer. It was so hot when I came in. And it is exhausting, right? And people are going to add on to the cooling energy, which is going to be air conditioning, and Pune is going to be heavily air conditioned, where air conditioners never existed, right? So let that sink in, that what are we doing to Pune? And 1 lakh homes and 1 lakh, 1 into 4, so 4 lakh air conditioners, I mean, whatever. So at least 3 lakh more. I mean, what is the runaway emission scenario are we creating? And add on to that, the thermal discomfort due to lack of ventilation, and Kanchan and I have been struggling because we have to convince the developer that ventilation is the first thing for thermal comfort. So if your house is not ventilated, and people don't know it, and when people buy homes, they are elevating in life, right? They are moving from some place, from renting to the house of their own. So do they even care about ventilation, let alone cross ventilation for that matter? So they don't know what they are buying into, and then when they come, they think that energies are low, people fall sick and all of that. So ventilation is very key. It's the first step for thermal comfort. Climate responsive design, which is what we call it CRD, or so getting to thermal comfort, and to show it in numbers that climate responsive design is the first step. For that, you really cannot consume the FSI you are consuming for climate responsive design to be there. Climate responsive design also means that we need to retain more than 30% of trees on the ground for all the redevelopments that are happening. This will require a huge policy intervention. Bombay, it's 25%, Pune, they are saying 10%. But what happens to the trees that have been there and part of the redevelopment? We are anyway changing the microclimate. So I can't be vocal enough about this, because what people don't know when they are buying these 1 lakh homes, these 1 lakh customers think that they're going to get a home which is going to be thermally comfortable. It is not going to be thermally comfortable. They will require that AC. Their children will fall sick. These homes will not have the ventilation because every bit of FSI has been consumed, right? You will not have a ventilated house, and that has severe implications on your health. So I just can't stop myself from talking about it. The next slide, and this is about climate change, and there are a lot of numbers, but the most reliable document that you should look at is the document released every year by the global so it's the GABC, Global Alliance for Building and Construction. This is GABC. This is every year before COP, they will release the state of the built environment report, and it is from that every year. So there are some variations in the number. You will get the global numbers right here. So then there are other reports that will give you the local numbers. And it's important to understand the different aspects of carbon. But I would also like to add a few things over here which is not represented here. What happens when you cut the trees? What happens when you excavate the land? When you excavate the land, you're releasing the carbon. When you cut the trees, you're releasing the carbon. Let's add that in. Let's add that in. Nobody's keeping a track of that number. It is not there in any calculation that we have. And that's the loss of the green cover, and government can say we are planting it in some vanarai. I don't know where these vanarais are. Okay, and Pune is getting hotter by the day. So the microclimate has to be accounted for when we look at GHG emissions in the built environment. Next slide, please. It's not there. I purposely kept it out. So these are some of our commitments. I mean, commitments are good as long as you don't change them, right? So we have a net zero commitment by 2030. All our developments have to get to net zero. I'm really struggling with net zero water. Net zero energy, I know that if we can do some through demand reduction, energy efficiency, and grid energy, and some on-site, because these are high rises. And then we have zero waste to landfill and net zero water. Net zero water is by far the toughest. Our commitments are based on science, and therefore you see what is called as the science-based targets. These are corporate commitments for our world cities and Mahindra Life Spaces. This is primarily on our scope 1, scope 2, and partially on our scope 3 emissions, which is the use phase. And like Purvaji said, use phase emissions are the ones on which we have the net zero commitment. Use phase comprises of 92% of our emissions in the baseline year were the use phase emissions. That is the buildings that we make and hand it over to the customers. That is the operational emissions of the customers, right? Next. Okay, so just, this conversation is important because people don't understand, and especially for me in the business, when I have to explain to 10 people, they say, I don't understand you. Are you speaking in Tamil, Kannada, Gujarati, Punjabi? They ask me all different questions, and I say, no, your language is not right. So I said, okay, let me change my language. So I speak in 4 languages. I also speak in carbon. Okay, so yeah, and they don't like it because they can't understand. So either you make them literate or you speak in Hindi, English, and whatever language they understand. So getting that conversation is important. Next. It's so when you look at the GBC built environment goal, by 2050, everything has to go to net zero. And Siddharth and I were discussing on the way up here that, how do we get there? And even if we get there, really will the world reverse back, and built environment is a huge contributor. So the built environment says that operational net zero by 2030 for all new buildings. By 2050, all buildings, that is all the retrofits have to be done. And embodied carbon by 2030, we should have 40% reduction in embodied carbon. And by 2050, we have to get to net zero. So I'm thinking how it is going to happen.
Somebody should educate what will be the cost of not doing this.
Yeah, but that cost is not going to come to them. So so it's going to come to their children anyway. So I've started threatening my colleagues lately. The guy for our project and the guy who got the land, and I told him that sorry, these are anecdotes, but threats have to be done. So I said, how old is your child? He said, she's 6 and she's interested in the environment. I said, did she ask you how many trees you're going to cut on a daily basis, Dad? So he didn't look at me, he just turned away and walked. So anyway, there are various, Sam, Dam, Dandabhed, everything has to be utilized. Next. So you alluded to this, and India has building energy certification programs, but so what is the question? So again, should we have a conversation about, India has it, but is it really going to make a difference is the question. Next. And then coming to, if we were to get to net zero energy, and which is one of the easiest things to get, even a worst project can get to net zero energy. And you cannot do climate responsive design. You can put a mechanical ventilation on top of it, and you can still get to net zero energy so long as the MSCDCL gives you net zero. Gives you renewable energy, and you're able to claim it, albeit at a cost. So what I'm trying to say is, if your energy is green, what you are left with is the embodied carbon. So that's what I wanted to show. For the investor, the portfolio, for a built environment investor, the portfolio looks very different. For the builder, my scope 1 and scope 2 emissions are very, very low, right? It is about all the sales gallery and the project offices that I make, and that's the remaining, that is scope 3. For the designer, it is all of scope 3. So what you're left with, if your energy is green, you're left with embodied carbon. And we are assuming that energy will become green and the grid will become green in time, and So next. Just wanted to focus a little bit on material selection. We have just started doing some work on embodied carbon. That's why I was saying that we have done more work on thermal comfort and CRD than on embodied carbon. With Shakti Foundation, GKSPL has helped us do the calculation of embodied carbon, because data is not there, emission factors are not there. You can do it with LC3, one-click LCA, but it is not India data. So I have the results of one-click LCA plus what we have actually got. Next. So this is from one-click LCA, and this is for two projects. Kanakpura is India's first net zero energy project. That's a affordable segment, and like you rightly pointed, affordable segment, it's easier to do demand reduction, give thermal comfort and no air conditioning, but make a thermally comfortable home. Yeah, so this is what we found, and you will see that concrete and steel are the biggest, they are the main contributors of the embodied carbon. So that's where you need to focus. There are other elements also, but I'll talk about it later. Next. So this is from an actual study that Shakti Foundation sponsored and did it for Eden. And what we found was that the total upfront carbon emissions from the project was 31,000. 93% of the upfront contribution are emissions are from the materials, right? And contribution of transport is very, very less, and energy used at a construction site is also very less. So that's where the balance is looking at. So 5% only transportation and 2% for the construction of the building. Next. Yeah. So now you take that biggest pie and then say which are the major contributors. It's concrete and steel. Concrete is 52, steel is 42. Masonry and plaster contribute to 2.3%, and windows, doors and windows make for the 2.4. If you use aluminium, that percentage will go up. Next. The superstructure has the highest contribution, and the foundation, that is the basement, and therefore how you make a basement is very important. Next. So these are some of the numbers of upfront and specific, but for the project what we found is it is 320 kg of CO2 per meter square. It's on the lower side because of some intervention that we have done. It is primarily use of GGBS and fly ash, and we can't afford virgin steel, so it's recycled steel. So most developers are using recycled. A good percentage of their steel has recycled steel. Next. Yeah. Now you can miss the bus depending on when you do the intervention, right? So these are the different stages. When you come to contractor and say, contractor karega, contractor nahi kar sakta hai. So you have to look at the developer first, look at what the strategy is, then discuss it with the design team, specify with the projects team and the design team, and then take it to the contractor. So there is a hierarchy of action and how you should be taking it up. Every stage your decarbonization potential just halves, next. Yeah, some of the strategies, we'll call it stage 1 and stage 2, design for a longer lifespan, identify the materials upfront, and site soil conditions should be solid, because that has an impact on your, the amount of material that you are going to be using to create the structure. Next. Identify low carbon materials. These are next stage, and optimizing the building shape, avoiding basements. Another way to avoid basements is please do a hydrogeology study. Without hydrogeology study, don't make buildings, because if your water table is high, it's really pointless to have basements. We have had situations after which people have started taking me very seriously in the organization. Cases, real cases. Let them learn. So I found out, investigated, geology kiya tha. Nahi. Uske baad everybody is scrambling, here is the report. I said, report mein date dekho. Thank God that guy put a date on the report. It was after the fact of, after the design. Once the entire water flow started coming into the basement and customers started taking objection. So episodes happen. as a developer, we really have to understand, if you have to safeguard business, better take care of the environment. Next. Yeah, so this is a contribution with respect to strategies, another way of putting, some of the, how the various strategies can help. Yeah, next. How your carbon footprint, embodied carbon footprint can reduce by deploying, and you can take that 400 wala number to 250 next. These are some of the, some emission factors associated with what kind of steel you're using and what kind of concrete you are using. Next. What happens when your recycled content is optimized? For this, you will need to talk to your vendors, your steel vendors, right? Okay, what percentage? So my company doesn't talk in carbon. They are even, they are very resistant to talking with the vendors. So we have to reach out to the vendors to try and see, okay, what is your recycled content? So currently the language of carbon within the organization has been thrust on them, and they are cooperating in helping us engage with the vendors that, where is it coming from? What is the steel content? Can it be optimized further? For steel, there is a project which UNDP is funding, which actually moves the steel manufacturing process from blast furnace to electric arc, and that is a funded project, and it's worthwhile having a conversation with SMEs in the steel sector to reduce, and we are attempting to do that. Next. Yeah, so this is on the recycled content optimization for ready-mix concrete. Of course, you'll have to talk to your RMC vendor. Next. So this is one option. This has not been integrated. There are a lot of challenges when it comes to hollow core. Needs to be looked at, but was a promising solution, and therefore put it up. Next. Next. So again, insulation. Some of the biogenic materials that are actually carbon positive, they actually store carbon, and there has been a lot of debate on LinkedIn about vendors claiming themselves to be carbon positive, but these are biogenic materials. They are trapping it, and we are not releasing it. So whether you use materials from straw or integrate agri residues into the agrocrete, these are all biogenic storage materials and should be looked at, and this requires a policy intervention. Next. So this is about how aluminium and PVC, so you can clearly see that aluminium has a higher embodied carbon per kg. Next. Next. Masonry, what is the contribution? Next. That's it. GGBS intervention and fly ash intervention and the steel intervention, these are the three interventions that we do. You mentioned that the first developer to do it, it's not MLDL, but there is a resistance with the quality team. So we had a shift in the quality strategy, and they standardized GGBS, and I'm really thankful to the projects and the quality team to really take it up. Say that it takes a long setting time that impacts the timelines. If that impacts the timeline, it's a direct implication on the cost plus the billing enablement. You have to raise the bill for the next milestone. So, but my quality head stood beside me. He did it. So it's done. So that's the kind of support sustainability head requires to get work done.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for the presentation and the insights. Are there any questions? Quick questions. Yeah.
Am I audible? Yes, ma'am. So you were there at COP. I saw that there were a lot of conversations which were happening over climate funding, climate financing, and how those are coming in the country. But at the same time, how these things are getting merged with the kind of developments which we are talking here. I would love to know more of what's been your experience of how these fundings and sources can actually be implemented in India, and if there is something on the way which can be utilized by the, you know, action plan which we're planning.
I'll shed some light on this, and this time I'm wearing the hat of GBPN. Primarily, most funding and most funders who are interested are quite interested in the policy movement with some POCs. Okay, so money will come for policy shifts and solid work with some implementation POCs, right? So it won't come and it won't be available as a kitty, okay? However, I want to talk about another fund which was lying with SBI for a long time. This is a KFW fund, just look it up. This was for developers who can get a RETV value of 12, right? And I told SBI that don't come to us because we are building, maybe my CFO doesn't need the money, that's one. Secondly, we are not able to achieve that RETV because of the concrete walls, right? So even if we do a net zero building, we are thankful for the climate of Bangalore and Pune to make the net zero happen. But concrete walls do not allow you that RETV. So that funding had a related clause that your RETV value has to be 12, right? Watts per meter square. And that was, it is lying unutilized. I think Lodha picked up some money for Palava, a few crores, I mean several crores actually. But SBI was struggling. So SBI could have done a dissemination of fund to all local developers who are actually using AAC blocks. But SBI wanted to disburse 800 crores, 500 crores all at one go. They didn't want to make an effort. So funds come, people did not utilize it, and it probably will now go back. Okay, so that is one example, and that's very sad because it could have been utilized by all the local developers who really are using the AAC blocks. They're still using it, isn't it? Yeah. So that fund is available. Seriously. But they were looking for, lump sum le lo, kaam khatam karo. And had it been a foreign bank, not SBI, they would have come knocking at every developer's door. And so this was again from, this is a KFW German fund, and I mean, it's unfortunate. I hope more climate fund comes in and we'll get the news what kind of funds are going to. But bonds are a great way to raise money if a developer needs to raise. So green bonds are a good way to, yeah.
So ma'am, the reason why I brought this up also was like we're a manufacturer. It's not as concerned for us as it might be for the developers or the decision makers who are building the carbon buildings, right? So like the relevance comes into place when we are trying to pursue them कि आप green buildings बनाओ. उसमें the incentive part, there is certain incentive, but the funds, they always have the issue of cost. And being a carbon low country, like जैसे अगर USA है, उनका per capita carbon ज़्यादा है, they have the carbon credits they give to us, we have the funds, so still it's being unutilized. So like, is there any particular way you might have envisioned how these streams can be flown into even a city's policy? Because I saw Dubai is doing that, Dubai DCL, Dubai Central Laboratory, and all these people are doing that. But India में वो organized ना होने की वजह से इतना strong flow नहीं आ रहा है utilization का. So
no, this needs to be discussed at all levels actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And one of the agenda of GBPN.
Yes, great.
Can I just, one quick one, as I recollected from the oral presentation, carbon contributor, the materials are the major contributors, and we as smaller developers find it difficult that various material options or material suppliers there are quite less number of suppliers who supply or have those material options. So does Mahindra, being maybe a township kind of projects, have any strategies to select such materials which reduce these things?
So we have the decarbonization charter, which has all different new material vendors, okay, biogenic material vendors, alternative material vendors. So we would like to welcome all developers to join the decarbonization charter. But I would like to correct you. Embodied carbon, yeah, steel and concrete contribute, but it's actually the operational carbon that is the biggest contributor. So if you look at the GHG inventory and you take only scope 3 of your inventory, so you remove your project office and sales offices, that's your scope 1 and scope 2. Your scope 3 comprises of majorly the material and the use phase. So your use phase carbon will be this. That is how you are making that building in the first place, how you are designing it. Okay. So designing the building has to be the first focus of the developer, and then this, but parallel कर सकते हैं. और इनके पास low hanging fruits थे. GGBS fly ash already है, steel already है. So, and biogenic materials, you join the charter, the database is yours. I mean, there's no joining fee.
Okay.
Yes, thank you so much for the insights, ma'am. Good afternoon, my name is Megha Fadke and I'm a research associate at PIC, mentored by Professor Malik. So I'll be taking it on from here. So I would now like to introduce our second invited speaker for today, Mr. Sandeep Sonigra, who's the founder director of Orange County Group. Mr. Sonigra has worked on various slum redevelopment projects at Mumbai and started his own builders and developers firm at Pune in 2005. Through which he has done various residential cum commercial projects in Pune as well as PCMC. Out of those, Orange County Phase 2 came in Limca Book of Records 2011 for being the first multi-storied residential building in the country, which is almost 100% on solar energy generated on site. He's a recipient of several awards for eco-friendly construction, including Innovation in Low Carbon Materials Award given by TERI. His Royal Orange County project is nominated for ASDEN, which is 1 in 49 projects across the world to get nomination for a green project. Mr. Sonigra is currently working on a township project, which is Evo Green City, which aspires to become India's first sustainable township. He's a stalwart and one of the pioneers in green developmental practices, to say the least. A warm welcome, sir. I invite you to speak a few words on operational decarbonization.
Thank you. Thanks for giving us this opportunity.
Maybe I should add,
Yeah,
Mr. Sonigra was recognized for his pioneering work in 2010 by the Institution of Engineers, and the culprit was me.
thank you, sir. बिल्डर म्हटलं की थोडंसं मराठीत बोलतो, सुरुवात करतो, नंतर मग आपण इंग्लिशमध्ये करूयात. कारण थोडं नॉर्मली बिल्डर जब आते हैं बोलते हैं, या बिल्डर बोलने के बाद लोगों के सामने जो एक पिक्चर आता है, दैट इज बिल्डर है तो चूना लगाते हैं. So that's a typical image we carry as a builder, and we are proud to say that कि हम एक्चुअल में चूना लगाते हैं. It's a 7,000 years Indian knowledge system. We should again go back to the roots when we are talking about decarbonization. Long back we had the world's first township, Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, and still anyone can visit that to take inspiration from them. That time we used bricks, so standardized bricks sprayed on a more than 1500 square kilometer area. Each brick has a standard measurement in all the Mohenjo-daro, Harappa cities. That time we also started using lime as a construction material. Since that, till 1970, even Pune, Deccan area had a lime kiln, Chunechi Ghani, and almost lots of construction was done with a lime. After 1970, we started forgetting and then we came into cement, and then cement became the only material. I studied in COEP. 4 years of entire my civil engineering, we never had a single word about lime. It was only cement, concrete, and steel, everything that. After that, then when I started as an engineer practicing, still it was a long dream. I was not knowing lime. Till 2012, when we completed our first project, which came in the Limca Book of Records in 2011, Orange County Phase 2, being India's first residential building where we tried to be 100% on renewable energy in apartment. After that, a step ahead was naturally the calculation of a carbon footprint. So for the same project, we calculated carbon footprint. It was 36 flats having a 20,000 or 30,000 square foot area. It came about a 1900 ton CO2 equivalent. That was my first study as a builder to calculate the carbon footprint. And as she talked about, biggest contributor again came steel and cement. So that was the point where we decided how we can minimize the carbon footprint, and then coming back to the cement as the culprit, we started replacing cement wherever possible by lime. Why lime? Lime is the only construction material which has the capacity or the formula, as everybody understands, CaOH2, calcium hydroxide is the lime, and it takes CO2 from the air. It's the only material which does actual carbon sequestration. So CaOH2 plus CO2 becomes CaCO3, calcium carbonate. This process of sequestering the carbon dioxide goes more than 30 years. It's a wonderful material that does so much help to the environment, and वो तो environment के लिए बाद में था, but as a human, अपना स्वार्थ, we got 9 degrees inside cooler flats. I have a record from last 10 years. I have built about 700 flats with this kind of interventions, spread on about 12 lakh square foot as the entire area. I have a data of all our apartment holders, their monthly electricity bill. Even this month we calculated, January 2024, yesterday only. For a 2 BHK apartment, the electricity bill, I will talk about the first unit. Unit is about 45 to 50 units per month consumption. IT, upper middle class, as my customer background, having about 1,000 square foot area as the apartment area. The monthly electricity bill comes in the range of 150 rupees to 200 rupees. This is the data for last 10 years monthly, and we publish it yearly.
That's great.
So unit consumption comes 1.9 units to be precise per day for an apartment, whether it's a 2 BHK or a 3 BHK. So that's what we have achieved. Coming from that background, a little bit ambitious now, more because now we have achieved so much. So the next, what can be done? So here comes our next initiative, Ihu Green City, India's first sustainable township. It's located near Tayode IT Park in a holy town of Sant Tukaram Maharaj, who talked about 400 years back about environment. Very famous line in a Marathi, he has Vrikshavalli Amha Soyere Vanachare. So he was not talking only about a human or a built environment, starting from trees to the birds and then human. So we had that tradition, and we are proud that even the land which we are developing, once it belonged to Sant Tukaram Maharaj. So we have about, it's spread on 1,84,500 square meter, approximately 45 acre of the area. We are building about 2,440 apartments plus 200 bungalows, school, hospital. In all, it's about a 4 lakh square meter built up area, and we are trying to become carbon neutral. Next slide. The project was initiated about 8 years back, 2015-16 we started working upon. We have got like a good global support base. The master planning of the project is done by one German architecture firm called Plan Quadrat. Then we have two German universities on board. One is a Fraunhofer Institute, which is there to make this township going on renewable possibility of. So there are lots of interventions from Fraunhofer Institute. We have Karlsruhe Institute on board for a theme called air conditioning going green. So about a first pilot building, about 20,000 square meter, we are building office building where we will not be using CFC or HCFC, and that will go air conditioning completely green. Next. Before achieving this entire, what you can see the results, last 18 years, whatever we have done, and the culmination of that entire process, this is what we call it 8-pole path, Harit Ashtang Marg. Starting from design, materials, energy, water management, waste management, transportation, biodiversity, and the most important is the culture building. Culture where all our stakeholders, right from developer to the ultimate end user, the flat or the apartment owners. So that is most important than any other else. If we are not able to build the culture, then it might be dream, or it might be, as a developer will do it, but the carry it by the all apartment owners is the most important. Next. 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 So I was talking about this wonderful material. We are using it as wherever possible. So except RCC, everything we do in a lime. Bricks made from a lime, mortar in a lime, a plaster entirely in a lime. So we have our own brick manufacturing research done, and successfully doing the bricks made from the lime, then the local material and bagasse or the rice husk ash, and then we are using that for our own in-house construction. So starting from bricks, then mortar again, we use lime and the crushed sand for the mortar. Plaster we are doing in a 3-coat system. The first coat is lime, crushed sand, kakvi. Everybody might be knowing liquid jaggery, and we use jute fibers into it, which makes this a unique coat. Then we have a second coat where we use lime, surki. Surki is a burned brick powder. Then we have again kakvi. We also use gawar gum extract. That's a unique material. So it's and also lignosulfates. And the third we have developed, which is sort of a patented product of our, is this was a traditional 2-coat system. Across India, we were doing this as the 2-coat system. The third coat is generally lime wash. So every 2 years, the traditional building has to do the color wash. But what we have gone a step ahead and developed a third coat, which is like a plaster, 3 mm plaster, lime, rangoli stone, जो दिवाली में हम use करते हैं, and marble powder. So combining this makes it a unique 3 mm plaster. Once it is done, then it is a perpetual color. You don't have to do recoloring. So this is what we have already done and achieved about a 12 lakh square foot in a lime. This entire township we will be doing with the lime. Not only in this, but also a few new avenues we are doing with the lime, like lime roads. This is going to be the first of its kind experiment we will be doing. The township roads we will be doing in a lime. So instead of bitumen, we are going to use lime. Such new interventions we are trying to do as much as possible. Next. This is actual figure of our project, how much it is coming. The entire city, European city, the carbon footprint that comes embedded is about 1,50,000 and operation is about 15,000. This we have taken in a 20 years time of operation. So it's about a 10% operation and 90% is the embedded energy. Because of all our interventions, it's not a regular case because my electrical consumption is very less as compared to the standard any buildings. It is about 70% less if you 70% or 80% less as compared to any standard buildings done by any other builders. So that my operation phase becomes very less. And how we are doing it, carbon neutrality. Before starting of a single square foot of construction, we have planted more than 2 lakh trees in last 5 years. We have planted. Luckily, I was based with the land which was adjoining to my project is a Gairan land, cow grazing land. So last 5 years we have done only creation of biodiversity park with Sahyadri's biodiversity as a theme. 120 different species, 2 lakh trees planted. This year we are planting about 76,000 trees. We have already done more than 50,000 yet to be done. This is what makes this project carbon neutral before I start a single square foot of a construction.
Wow.
Next. As I was talking, it was this I already discussed, eco-friendly bricks and air conditioning going green. For air conditioning going green, it's about a first building where we will be using a radiant cooling technology. Plus, we are doing very unique construction in our township. We are constructing a step well, Baudi. And that Baudi, which has a capacity of 90 million liters, will be the world's largest step well, and that will be utilized for, part of that utilized will be for air conditioning, where I will be getting the water at always 18 degrees Celsius, bottom of the Baudi. Next. This is the very unique methodology that we have developed since 2005, rather 2008. When I was talking about individual apartment going on renewable energy, how we are able to achieve it. So what we have done, light, fan, TV, computer, refrigerator, these are having a different wiring, and power points having a different wiring. So all these points are on a renewable energy as a primary source of electricity. And this is achieved by a very good instrument in every apartment. We call it a blink-free changeover switch, which has a 1.5 ampere as the current limit in every apartment. So if you are using simultaneously say 10 tube lights, fan, TV, computer, everything, and if you are still within the limit of 1.5 ampere, which is about 300 watts, you are on a green energy, solar energy, shown by a green LED in the apartment. Now you know that you are on a green energy, and green is a free of cost. The moment आपको free मिल रहा है, so start using as much as possible. 10 के बजाय 20 tube light करो, whatever excess. Then it shifts 100% shifts to grid when you have crossed the limit. Now it is shown by a red LED in the apartment. Now choice rests with customer, whether he want to do that, because it's now 100% chargeable. or if you do not want, reduce the energy consumption which is not required, come within the limit of 1.5 ampere, you are again going to the green, which is a free of cost. Choice rests with the customer. I don't have to preach for any ये करो वो करो कंजम्पशन कम करो, जरूर नहीं है, हो जाता है. Next, this is a little bit next step. We started with the last project, Royal Orange County, where the last two buildings which were in the end of the project, 100 flats, giving them electrical charging points, again through solar. So all 100 flats, 100% rather, having the facility of EV charging. And with this township now, we claim right now to be more than 30% because that's the mandate, but we will try to be 100%. Next, this I already discussed. Creation of urban jungle instead of a concrete jungle. Next. Waste management, again a part of a township, we will be achieving as much as possible and then waste recycling in the site itself. Next. Culture building, building the culture of sustainability. Going to the people, discussing with them, common man rather than the experts. No doubt experts have their role to play, but most important is the stakeholder, is the purchaser, a common man. If they are able to drive, because when I started as a builder, 2005, Pune didn't have a swimming pool as a facility. 2005 people builders started, one or two builders started swimming pool as a facility. And rather than purchaser, then they started demanding to the builder, do you have a swimming pool? And then it becomes slowly every builder that swimming pool as the amenity. So it has to come from the purchaser, and here I think the role is more important, to go to the common man, to go to the purchaser, give them information what's exactly is the green building, what is the possibility, and then when they are taking the decision of purchasing an apartment, at least thought 1 point for a green building. And that can be done with the all authorities coming together, people having awareness. Next. Very few pointers for others. This is what we have done. For a public sector or a government, what we are doing as a builder, my one, it's really killing the environment. Everybody has to think before they are using my one. So here intervention should come. Why my one? It's only a greedy of builders. If you see, because I was there the first person to do the research on this kind of a tunnel former technology way back 1996. The globe uses this kind of technology where there are two walls, and there are in between two walls there is a at least 1 inch separation, so that you are not hitting the apartment. We have just forgotten, now it's a 6 inches wall, because I am giving better carpet area, more carpet area, I am getting more funds, I am getting more price. My one is really problematic. Transportation, yes, we have lots of now metro coming into picture, but last mile connectivity, and if at all possible a campaign that starting from Nagar Sevak, starting from industrialists, starting from builders, at least 1 day or 2 days using public transportation. Because we don't know the problems what common man are facing. Let's face for a 1 day or 2 day. I think that will change the transportation scenario in the city. Rooftop solar, I had done lots of rooftop solar, but there is a problem from discoms. Lots of problems, but still it's miles. So that as a, we have to take them into confidence that it's not, we are not eating their anything revenue, but it's for next generation we require rooftop solar. Pune, we call it Oxford of the East. Why we should not have alternative materials as a mandate? There are so many materials. Let's have that, go on a bigger scale. I think lots of developer will come if we have a proper research on a green materials. Yes, urban jungles, उसको बोलने की कोई बात भी नहीं है. That's required. It's mandatory. And what we thought and what we got is creating a jungle is the best solution of decarbonization. And as a private sector, we would like all our builder fraternity to go for more green building than for FSI, alternative materials and supply chain going green. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. We open the floor for a quick round of question and answers.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. This is
Good afternoon all.
Go ahead.
I'm architect Ruturaj Kulkarni. And sir, when you spoke about material, new material coming up, new things you have used. So I really want to know that how did you get them all tested? How you got them simulated? Because I'm from educational background, I teach. So many students come to me with some kind of new ideas and they don't have a facility to test that and prove their theory in reality, with which they could come up with new sustainable material.
Come to me, I am there. We would like to make guinea pigs. No problem. But as a builder, we are doing continuously testing. For example, bricks. Recently, what we have made, we had given it to COEP or even a Durocrate, for example. They have some facility. IIT Roorkee has one of the best facilities. CEPT is there, who again can help in terms of getting the results, testing it. That's a long way, but in a short term, come to us. We are there.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
The Terry Center of Excellence also, the Mahindra Terry Center of Excellence for test. But it's a long way, Gurgaon.
That was actually the problem, that whatever we have, it's not in the reach of common man. We want something in reach of common man.
Yeah, I mean, and localized also, because materials have to be sent a long way. I mean, transportation cost gets added to that.
So I'll just add to the same thing, whatever Sonigra sir said, your question. Probably sir started with वो चूना लगाते हैं और हम जैसों से यू वैल्यू भी कैलकुलेट करवाते हैं एंड इतना ही नहीं काकवी फाइबर एंड द लास्ट थिंग प्रोबेबली सर आई विल जस्ट ऐड ऑन थिंग्स व्हिच यू हैव मिस्ड you have comprehensively covered everything, but he was the one to make me do the U value calculations in his office, and we were sitting for around 5.5 to 6 hours with books, whatever internet research, and believe me, even the Griha team was trying to understand exactly how the calculations are done, and it was a big show that time. And just to add on, with these basics, he has even tried giving natural colors to the buildings. He did mention about the block, plaster and the rangoli thing, but he has tried giving colors by adding palak as a color ingredient, even beetroot for that matter, and I have witnessed all these things. The next thing, what we often talk of, we talk of strategies sitting in a forum, but it was difficult for consultants teams sometimes to tell sir ki sir probably this is not required in the scheme. He wanted a gai ka gotha also in the scheme. So probably he is going to fulfill that in the next scheme.
Yeah, it's in there in the Goshala.
Absolutely. The third thing we are talking, that root zones are a very difficult thing to actually take care of or maintain. I have seen root zones not on ground but also on third floor with his schemes. So I think there is no limit to your application of strategy. Last two things, how he could achieve the end user coming to a unit which is limited to even 2 units per day, lesser than that. So he has customized the switches with auto cutoff. If the end user is using the electricity to a particular extent which has to be efficient, he doesn't have to go to the grid. So I think that was a very, very unique feature in his scheme. And the other thing was, we often complain that solar water heaters are not working. So his scheme has again customized solar water heaters with 5 liter, I think 5 to 15 liter dedicated tanks per unit, wherein there is a guaranteed hot water to every recipient, not wasting the water with the insulation pipes and other things. And the last part is, when I did my study on the cost part, he did mention that the cost was approximately 700 to 1000 square feet per square feet additional, which was told to the end users.
No. I'll just come back.
Yes, sir.
400 to 450 rupees per square foot is what we incur on the extra cost for going all these features combined together. I charge, initially it was for free for our first 5 projects and 5 years of completion of all the projects. The next project I started charging 300 rupees per square foot as the green contribution from my customer. Nobody asked me till date why 300 rupees.
Great, sir.
300 rupees per square feet.
Yes. And the last thing, Griha team, when we were doing, he has a Griha 5-star rated project already. So we were not struggling for 5-star or whatever. So Griha team was struggling where to cut the marks. So I think his project has one of the highest marks till now.
No,
and
5-star nahi chahiye, milna nahi chahiye last, but we were there. At any cost, we will be the first to have a 5-star post completion.
Yes.
Yeah.
So definitely a great one, sir.
Yeah.
Hello, hi, this is Tejesh Babul. Being a MEP consultant, I think so I'll be the most hated person in this room. But sir, my question to you was regarding the refrigerant-free campus that you have created. I think so you have addressed Naik Naure Sahab's point of removing air conditioning from the projects. How did you achieve that? The second question is regarding the radiant cooling that you mentioned. To which all spaces are you applying radiant cooling?
First of all, it's not done. Let's be clear. I have just started on a large scale. On a smaller scale, I have done. So it's about a 10,000 square foot area at a Pashan that we have tried. Now I am going on a larger scale where the Karlsruhe Institute is on board, so that entire air conditioning becomes CFC or HCFC free. This we are expecting to be completed within next 1.5 years or so.
Okay. So is it natural refrigerants that you'll be using?
Yes, ice as a medium than any other thing, and they are expert in that, so they are on board.
All right. And regarding the radiant cooling technology?
Yeah, I am using radiant cooling technology. I have tried since 2010 or so. We use the corrugated PVC pipes below the tiles, so in a Machan. And then I have underground water storage or continuous flow of underground water, which is about 15 meter below the ground, where I am getting throughout the year 18 degrees Celsius as the temperature of the water, inlet water. So as soon as the structure raises or it has a temperature more than 35 degrees, it automatically starts the water flowing, and the structure cools to the 27 degrees or less than that by using water, flowing water. And that way approximately 30% load on a air conditioning is reduced. This is what I have done on a pilot scale. Now we are doing on a large scale.
Yes. Thank you so much, sir. We now come to our last invited talk for today on an extremely relevant and important topic, giving the rate at which Pune region is undergoing the redevelopment of older infrastructure. Yes, sustainable redevelopment. To steer this session, we are very happy to have with us one of the experts in the field, Mr. Ganesh Zadhav, who is the co-founder of Gangotri Homes and Holidays. Mr. Zadhav started his career in decentralized water management systems, where he was involved in designing and executing water retaining structures at the village level. He later diversified in building construction and project management services for many renowned corporate houses and multinational companies. Under his leadership, Gangotri Homes has been the pioneer for several successful green redevelopment projects. Their very recent redevelopment project, Surud, pardon me if I am pronouncing it wrong, yes, thank you, in Pune, in Erandwane, Pune, was the first redevelopment project in India to receive platinum rating as IGBC Green Building. His firm is a recipient for several acclaimed awards for their contributions in this sector, like the awards by Economic Times, Lokmat and the ESA Award, to name a few. A very warm welcome, sir. I invite you to speak a few words on sustainable redevelopment.
Thank you. Firstly, I thank Pune International Center and VKE to just make us the part of this round table, and we have opportunity to talk on this. And I'm also glad to share one thing, that me and Sandeep are classmates from the COEP thing, and we did our graduation project together. So it is very nice that first time we are on the same platform and speaking on green building. So it's a very good thing that we have done. Actually, before going into the developers, as being developers, we were project management consultants, as she mentioned, and because of the global initiatives of the multinational companies that we worked with, they wanted all their plants overall anywhere in world that those should be green compliant. And then we got the opportunity to certify one of our this factory project as a green building certified, and then another, it was a IT building which was certified. So we had that experience with us when we started as developers. The first project that as developers we did, Sandeep and we did it together, called Orange Srushti. And then we did a lot of green initiatives, but we didn't go for certification as such. Then we thought of, when we started as developers, just on the next slide please. So when we just went into the developer role, so we thought that as a common man, everybody knows that what is sustainability. Now we have talked about it a lot and why it is needed. Then as a common man, what is that I can contribute? And as a profession, fortunately we were into the building construction, so we thought that let us do our bit, and then this presentation would be a simpler presentation, because we are not the academicians or researchers, but whatever best we can do. And then what we thought of was whether we can really replicate whatever we are doing in more number of projects. So after our project together, Sandeep went for the townships and we went to the redevelopment likes. And of course, you know, this redevelopment, why it is necessary. Just go to the next slide, please. So you know why sustainability is required. I will not talk more about this. Next. And these are figures from Pune. So again, in Pune, we are not different on all these fronts. We have talked a lot on this. Next. And I like this actually definition of sustainable development is a development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So that is the simplest thing that we took forward, and we thought of doing the green buildings. Next. Then why redevelopment? Now everybody knows this, but just to recollect, people are getting more carpet area in the same location. They are getting better specifications and amenities. They used to climb up all the 3 floors, 4 floors. Now they want lifts. They want parking because the number of vehicles are more. And then people like to stay in upper floors for getting better ventilation and light. So these are the basic needs of the people, and that's why we are going for redevelopment. Next. So in the redevelopment, whatever initiatives we have taken, those can be, enumerated in different verticals: sustainable design and planning, water efficiency, energy efficiency, materials and resources, resident health, solid waste management, indoor environment quality, and reduction in carbon footprint. So now when we go into every vertical, what is that was done in our project, so it will be like a case study. Next. So these are the green building benefits. As you all know, we have discussed it a lot. So contribution towards environment, reduce load on local infrastructure. That is the small thing that we have not discussed more. But in a city like Pune, lot of infrastructure is getting loaded. A lot of people are asking me, "Itna redevelopment chal raha hai, whether we have enough water, we have enough drainage systems for this," and then we have to think on that. Yeah, it is really, whether it is really possible to change all the infrastructure in the cities, in the core areas, to house such many people in the core area of the city. Next thing was the low maintenance cost for the occupants, and then of course the better quality of life. Next. So this presentation was also done for some other people, so they didn't know about the certification agencies, but these are which I think this forum knows about it. Next. So we thought of going for IGBC green building certification for our project called Surut. Next. Now this was another important point, that in 2017 UDCPR, that is the Unified Development Control Rules, brought this clause that the green building shall be entitled for incentive FSI, and then the incentive FSI was given depending on the certification with GRIHA or IGBC or LEED or SHM. And then we thought of this also, that anyway we were thinking of going for the green building, and then we have the additional FSI that will definitely benefit us. And this is not only for us, all the developers, if you want them to do these green buildings, then they have to have some incentive, and I think this has given a major boost for going for the redevelopment, going for the green buildings in the redevelopment. Next. So this is the that clause I have just mentioned, and of course there were also limits, that if you pre-certify and then you don't do the actual certification, then there will be fine for it also. Next. So some of my friends who are into this redevelopment also think that whether we will be able to achieve this, otherwise we'll have a heavy penalty on this. Next. So I will not go into this, the credit summary, which was the version 1 of IGBC, but in different aspects of the green buildings, they had this 100 points credit summary, but I think we'll not go into those details now. Next. So this was our Surut case study. This is the actual photograph of the building. It is in Erendavane area of Pune city. You can visit it any time. Next. It was a 27,000 square feet plot and 22 old residents, and now a building with 2 parking floors and 73 apartments into that. And then this was the first, as we know, the first redevelopment project receiving the platinum rating green building certification. Next, and also receiving the 7% green FSI for that. Next. So this is the display that we have done in the corridor of the project, that the people should feel proud of the building, and whatever are the main features of the green building that were displayed there, and the actual plaque. Next. So these are small aspects that we'll just go through. The inside selection, as we have already discussed about the ventilation, designing and all those things. So the preservation of existing trees, we had around 40 odd trees into that, and because of the level difference, we had to have a retaining wall as a compound wall, and then we had the compound wall going all over those trees so that we can retain those. If you visit the site, you can understand what we have done for that. And then the green spaces were designed, around 15% is the green area of the total area of the plot, and then 75% of the hard areas are covered with high SRI solar reflective index coating. Then the top terrace was already covered with SRI tiles. 5% of the total parking was given the electrical charging points. Now it has been increased and it has gone up to 20% of the total parking capacity. Next. Then, of course, the user-friendly design was done, accessible for old people, handicapped people. We have a handicapped toilet there. Ramps are provided so that it is easily accessible everywhere with the wheelchair. And then on the top of the terrace, we have done this provision of overdeck express insulation so that we have the insulation from the heat. And of course, we have already discussed about the AAC blocks were used and to give the better U value, and high performance glass was used for the windows. Another thing that we had done was, next. So these are the photographs actual on this site. The roof insulation tiles you can see, the electrical charging points you can see. Next. So this was regarding the site planning, and regarding the water efficiency, again Purva earlier mentioned that we have used these low flow rate fixtures which reduce the 35% of the consumption of water. Of course, those are Jaguar fittings but with low flow rate fixtures. Next. So that is the water efficiency. Then of course the reuse of the treated water, there is a STP done there, and reuse of treated water is a different plumbing system done for the reuse of the treated water. Next. Again, the metering is one of the important aspect, and everywhere meters were fit to monitor the things. And then as I mentioned earlier, there is a wastewater system STP 50 KLD for this project, which was already installed there and commissioned. Next. Again, the rainwater harvesting, we have done the 100% rainwater harvesting for bore wells. The recharge bores are already done there. You can see that Paddi done there for protecting the trees on left hand side. Next. Regarding the energy efficiency, 100% on hot water, we have considered the 100 liters per family as the capacity, and then 7,500 liters solar water heating system is there. 25 kW was the consumption that was calculated for the total project, and the system was involved, and now the net metering is in place. Just to give you the figure, before the net metering was in place, the society was getting the electricity bill of around 85,000 per month, and now it is 35,000 per month. So there is a reduction in per month around 50,000 rupees. Then of course all the lighting is done with LED lights. Next. So you can see some photographs for the same. From the top you can see those two types of panels, solar water heating and solar PV panels, and then solar reflective tiles on roof, solar water heating tank. Next. Then again motion sensors were installed in all the lobbies so that we have the control on the consumption and the LED lights everywhere. Next. For waste generation, we have earlier not good experiences about the pits of things, so we have gone for this organic waste composter, and it is working very well, considering 1 kg per family as the weight waste. So accordingly this OWC was installed and it is working very well. Next. And of course the segregation bins were provided. Next. Regarding the materials, all the wood that we have used is FSC certified, Forest Stewardship Council certified. So that also adds to the selection of materials, and of course the 70% of the construction materials procured locally that we all know. Next. So these are some photographs. Next. For indoor environment air quality, what we have done is the lintel levels are fixed at 8 feet instead of 7 feet, so that we have the higher lintel level, that is the top of the window. So you have the window from 2 feet to 8 feet, so 6 feet windows. That gives you the better light and ventilation. Of course, the simulation was done to finalize the sizes of the windows, and the for cross ventilation, the windows were given into the ducts also, so that we have the good cross ventilation. Of course, exhaust fans were provided into kitchens and bathrooms. Next. Next. Use of low VOC paints that are available now with the branded paint companies. So we have used those. So that has made a huge difference whenever people generally visit the site. Next. Next. Then what is the innovation and design process that we have followed? So we have also made a tenant guideline. You can click on the guideline, please. So this is a small guideline that we give whenever we hand over the project. So what are best that they can do when they actually use this project, just go through the guideline. So these just simple ideas that people can first to educate them why this is a green building and what they can do when they actually use day-to-day things, the equipments and all those things. So this is a small guideline that we provide to them. You can come out of it. Then we also provided them while the handing over the eco-friendly chemicals, and we also provided them the list of the vendors so that from where they can purchase all these things. And we thought that if we give all the things with these vendors, then they will be able to use those even after we hand over. And of course, IGBC APs are required as a marking system. So Kanchan and Rucha helped us in that. Next. Generally, people ask that, oh, okay, you get the FSI, you get the felicitations and all. Then what is for us? That is a simple question that is asked by our customers, because they don't pay you more. Of course, Sandeep has been successful to get 300 rupees, but otherwise, till date we have not received anything more. But of course, people prefer us, so that can be said as a definite advantage. But what is the advantage with them when they start actually using? So reduction in the water bills. Presently, we don't have water bills into the local those are into the local tax presently, but eventually we'll be getting the water bills, and then definitely that will save. They'll be saving on the water bills. Of course, electricity bill I already told you. Low maintenance cost is another thing, because at many places other small things that we have done, so that will save them into the maintenance cost. And of course, better light and ventilation and better quality of life that they really enjoy. Presently, we are not gone into the research or data, but the last floor people definitely give us the feedback that we see the difference into the temperature. Then people also say that we have very good ventilation into the flat, so that is a very good feedback that we have received. Next. So that is what we had achieved in the credit summary, but that is not the point for today's discussion. Next. Now, just if somebody is of interest to know how this FSI thing works, so that time these are the plot area and basic calculation and how the green FSI was received. Generally, the 7% that we get is on the basic FSI, which is 1.1 basically presently. So this was the 280 square meter was the green sellable area that we received. FSI was 259 square meters. Next. And then just go to the calculation. So we did a calculation that what we have paid extra for while doing all these things, and then just go to the figure. Yeah. So total expenses that incurred in Surud were 96 lakhs, and then the green area sellable was 3000 square feet. So approximately the cost for us was 3196 square feet. So now our assumption is that whenever you have the redevelopment project which is going in the core Pune area where the rates are more than 10,000 rupees a square feet, and if you want to buy the TDR or premium FSI, generally the cost is the same. So, and this FSI is above the cap that is given by the government or UDCPR. So this is the additional FSI that we get. So according to us, wherever there is 10,000 square feet rate and above, it is very much feasible, practical to have the green FSI and consume the green FSI and go for it. So that is the general, that we have achieved, and that is what we conclude. Next. Next. So this was the team that worked for us in this project. Next. We'll just go through a small film of Surud and then we'll end this my presentation. So 3 minutes film.
Gangotri Homes and Holidays presents Surud. In the heart of A21 area of Pune stands tall the path-breaking landmark that is a perfect example of living in harmony with the environment. Surat is the country's first redevelopment housing project awarded the Platinum rating by IGBC, the Indian Green Building Council. Surat is adorned with a wide array of environmentally sensitive features that make it one of its kind, such as electric charging facility for vehicles, organic waste management unit, rainwater harvesting, solar reflective paint on podium, toilet for handicapped people, lighting system with motion sensors and energy efficient luminaires, designed to let in maximum daylight, health friendly low VOC paints, FSC certified wood door and frames, fresh air ventilation, water efficient fixtures, braille lift buttons for the visually impaired, fully insulated roof for protection against heat with amphitheater, a tastefully designed plush green terrace, reduced electricity consumption with solar water heaters and photovoltaic solar panels, solar reflective tiles, reuse of treated water, adequate fire safety systems. For a complete award-winning, fully green building experience, visit Surud today.
Just before I conclude, I'll just mention that after this project, we took a self-mandate that we'll have all our projects green certified, and I am happy to tell you all that all our projects presently are either pre-certified or we have received the final certification. So after Surud, we have already 2 final certified projects in Sahkar Nagar, and then presently we are doing around 15 redevelopment projects in Pune, and all of our projects are pre-certified green buildings. Another thing that I'll mention is that in our project, actually Sandeep earlier mentioned about the culture. What we have, besides doing the green buildings, what we have seen is that we'll try to have very good common spaces, and because the redevelopment projects we are short of spaces and we don't have much spaces where the people can interact, but we have tried to use the top terraces as a very good interactive space. You see we have done the amphitheater is this project. In our other small project of 5,000 square feet plot also we have done small amphitheater, and then again we have decided that all our projects will have a small library area, and in a small project of 5,000 square feet again we have done a small library. It was a big library in Surat, but for a small project also we have done. So I don't know whether that will be marked as a part of a green building, but that can be a great and easy initiative that the builders can do in their project. So this can be a very good example, so that I wanted to share. So thank you again for giving this opportunity, and I'm open for the questions.
Hello everyone, my name is Gautam, and I have a question for Mr. Ranjit and a special mention for Mr. Sandeep. First, Mr. Sandeep, I am really happy to see the presentation because this was my last year engineering project when I was doing my civil engineering from Pune, so it's really nice to read about it. And also I was just talking to Anshul about Mr. Amar, who was also a part, so he also guided us. So it's pretty amazing to see the things that is happening. And a special request for Mr. Ranjit. So I am representing GBP and Global Building Performance Network here. We are an international NGO, and our objective is to have sustainable housing for all by 2030. And we are in the process of exploring different states. We are currently working in India in some of the states as well. Maharashtra is definitely one of them. And the idea is to decarbonize the building sector so that the policy shift can happen. In order to do that, instead of top-down, we have proposed of adopting a bottom-up approach for which the involvement of builder community is really important. So what is the easiest and the best way to have the builder with us so that we can work together and make sure the policy shift can happen towards decarbonization? Thank you.
So, should I address this now or later if in the summing up? Either way is fine. Okay. So, sorry, I missed your name. Gautam, thanks for the question. See, the only thing that needs to be done, and believe you me, the Pune developers, I can speak with absolute confidence in as much that the Pune developers are always one step ahead of the rest of the country. I have seen developers across the country, so I can say I have closely interacted with them. The only challenge as a community that we face all the time is that this net zero green building movement does not get the importance that it deserves, firstly, and that is purely because of the lack of knowledge. Honestly, we are very happy to be self-regulated at all times. The FSI incentives have always contributed a lot to our going green. We have across the board, all the developers have utilized the FSI benefit that we get by doing some rating or the other. But going beyond that and using that only as a stepping stone and going beyond that is more important for us to do. And unless we create this sense of awareness amongst all our members and even non-members, I would say, because we have a few who are non-members as well, is the key issue. And we will definitely like to look at all the expertise that is on offer here and make sure that we run enough programs, enough educational programs, enough initiatives. And while you said it should be the bottom-up approach, I have a slightly different opinion, because finally the developer has to get engaged. Somebody like Sandeep, somebody like Ganesh, who are committed to the green movement. If we can have more of such people who are leading their organizations, I'm sure we can achieve this whole thing across the board. So to answer your question, we are open to any suggestions that you may have. We would like to educate ourselves and our members as much as possible. We have Pranati here now, who's joined us a little late, and she heads our whole sustainability movement in Kredai. And we are happy to take it forward any which way that it requires. But this will get the top priority going forward, I assure you that much. Thanks.
Can I add something? So I'll just share our experience with this Surat getting a lot of visibility in city area. Now a lot of redevelopment tenders, they are putting a condition that the redevelopment project has to be a green building. So that awareness, what was created in common people, that is being reflected into different tenders also. So I think so that is one of the good.
Does that mean that the redeveloped building will have a smaller footprint, carbon footprint than the previous one?
In totality, yes. Maybe the academicians will be able to throw light on that, but considering all the things that we are doing, the operational thing definitely will be, because as we see we have more daylight and ventilation, so there will be reduction into the consumption.
No, I will just interrupt. What he was talking, driving is a different point.
when I mentioned swimming pool. So the similar kind of people's demand. So what he is saying is that the society which wants to develop there for a redevelopment, they are putting the condition that it has to be a green building. So it's coming from a common man perspective, which is really good. Demand.
But does it end up being?
See, it's अब हम जैसे मराठी दगड का वीट डोकं तर फुटणारच आहे पण थोडंसं कमी त्रास होईल सो ओके सो दॅट वे इफ ऑल डेव्हलपर आर गोइंग टू डू अ नॉर्मल काइंड ऑफ अ redevelopment, at least few started doing a green building initiative that will help to spread and to have a demand of a more green buildings and ultimately जैसे बोलते ना कि वो बहुत नहीं लेकिन थोड़ा खारीचा वाटा. So it's like that. At least you are able to reduce something. It's well and good. That's a starting point to people ask more and more. That is what is achieved by Surud. I think that's really great achievement.
This roundtable has been configured to understand how we can reduce the carbon footprint of the building and infrastructure. But the general feeling is that by the so-called redevelopment, when five floors become 15 floors, it starts by digging more in the ground. So, first of all, maybe you are upsetting the groundwater. By going up, and most people want the upper floors, so it's becoming a tall structure, and it's called heat islanding effect. So are we looking at the future where the building and infrastructure will have smaller footprint, same footprint despite development, or larger footprint?
Sir, I'll just go with my take on this. So, even if we do not go for green building as developers, as Gangotri.
Green building is a very dicey word.
Yeah. We are just having a roundtable discussion on this, we can say. But anyway, this is going to happen. Otherwise, even if you don't do any green building, buildings are going to happen. Everybody wants to be in the city. Everybody wants to be into city, and the employment is here, and so many things. And regarding the redevelopment, because people want their new flats to be at the same location as they were in all these 30 years, 40 years, whatever. So this is going to happen anyway. So now, as you mentioned, like for example, the heat island effect. So because now otherwise, if I am not going for a green building, I would be having a big tower as best possible, as the permission we receive.
Now even the number of floors,
there is no restriction.
Is gone.
Correct. Yeah. It depends on of course, the road width, but whatever best possible will be going for the maximum number of floors. And so if we don't go for example, we are not going for the heat insulation on the top, insulation work doing. So again, the flats on the top floors would be heated otherwise. So when we generally go for the green buildings, we are at least taking care of that heat island effect is reduced. We can't say it will be zero, because presently the insulation value, for example, is for 70%. What is that? They say is SRI value is 7.7 or 70% is the solar reflective index. So now that means if it would have been hitting 100%, now it is hitting 30%. So there is definitely some reduction. And if we go for simple aspects in every item, there will be some reduction into that. So we have to think in that way also. Otherwise, then people will be having the My1 buildings and whatever. So even we now presently in the redevelopment, we are having a big dilemma. Some people are saying that go for red bricks. Some people are saying go for AAC blocks. And then there is a big discussion going on that, which is a better way, which is more greener. And then we have a debate going on that also. So maybe, as you say, researchers and academicians have to throw light on that, what is a better thing. But as developers, as a common person or person with whatever profession we are into, what we can do. So what we can do is we can go for the green buildings. If we have better things to be done, that you people show us, we'll be doing those also.
Depend upon the people, customer.
So the question that you have asked is more about urban planning, and it is about whether we should be having high-rise dense development, or it should be low-rise dense development, or it should be low density high-rise development. So there are 4 different alternatives that one can choose from, and there are pros and cons and arguments for both. So when I'm just giving only 1 or 2 arguments, and then I think it's a big research question. So maybe in terms of people who are promoting high-rise, they are saying that you are going to save a lot on the sprawl, which would reduce the urban heat island effect, which is true. The more you go taller, the more land area available for making it green. However, like I said, the green also should be mandated at the same time when you allow someone to go high-rise. So the case for high-rise is that you are reducing sprawl, reducing the urban heat island effect, reducing the transportation, because if it is a sprawl, then the distances for transportation increases, and it's a kind of an two-way argument. So someone talking for low-rise would talk about how much less energy is required in vertical transportation because you are not going high. They would talk about reduction of, maybe going deeper in terms of basements. Talking about, so this would also depend on what kind of transportation planning you have and how much you are investing as a city into public transport. So there are many aspects when we start looking at which is a low carbon development. Is it high density high rise, low density high rise, high density low rise? So this is a further question, sir. So it needs to be looked at in many parameters.
Can I also add one small thing here? So like Aga Khan Foundation representatives also here, and even we as a manufacturer of high SRI materials, we're here, we're planning, we're not just talking of buildings, or we're not just talking of particular areas or hotspots. There are undergoing current studies also which are taking up large square feet areas, and there are policies which have already been released. For example, Telangana Cool Roof Policy, which specifically focuses on the urban heat island impact. Rightly said by Ganesh sir also that a lot of urban migration is happening. And given that reality, like Purva ma'am said, there are balances to be created, and organizations like Aga Khan, organizations like Cool Roof Rating Councils, they are specifically targeting those areas of having that realistic balance of how residential, commercial, industrial and city construction can have a sustainable impact. And that's where these innovative technologies which are already existing have to be taken in a certain way where balance is created. I feel that's more important, because there is permeable concretes, there are permeable, there are high SRI pavements. There are a lot of technologies which are there but not being used in the right ways. So I mean, that's just a small take and things which are happening which I wanted to introduce it. Thank you.
I'm sorry, just to add to what he said before. We are from Aga Khan Agency for Habitat India, not foundation. We belong to the same network, of course. But to correct me if I'm wrong, it's an open-ended question, of course. But yeah, right. We believe that redeveloping a project or building onto a new land will contribute more to carbon emissions rather than retrofitting the existing landscape. So what are the thoughts about it? Like, how can we move beyond this aspect of redevelopment and new building initiatives rather? Any thoughts on it?
Actually, I had a similar question, and because Sunita, you had also mentioned that we are looking at more durable buildings. Because nowadays, if you see, although we are designing a building for a good 40-50 years in terms of its actual strength and everything, but overall our investment in maintaining it is so dismally wrong and bad. We just end up ensuring that lifts are working, it is painted perhaps once in 5 years, and that's about it. And if something starts leaking, then we go and fix it. That's the level of maintenance that we have. So essentially just in 20 years or 25 years the building looks so run down.
At the same time, the market is giving so many newer and newer options of better homes. Most of the systems have become old, so they're running inefficiently. So people are also, like you said, aspiration. However, what should be, I think this is a research question again, what should be that reasonable amount of time to which a building should be put to its maximum use? Because I feel 20-25 years is too less for the effort that we are expending, for the carbon footprint that we are creating, and literally even before 30 years are over now, I think there is some incentive for 30 years, but even 30 years is, I feel, less. We should be talking about 40 to 50 years of its lifestyle, of its lifespan, till the carbon footprint that has been expended sort of gets some thing out of it, and then probably think of redevelopment. And automatically that cycle has come to half, like they are mentioning it. They are not even thinking of retrofit, of anything of that kind. They're just pulling the whole structure down and building it up. So are we really talking about maintenance?
Can I say something? So I'm from Nagpur, and there are a lot of individual homes over there. And what has happened with UDCPR, and because of the FSI, and in UDCPR, whether you do a high rise, whether you do in a building, you can build right till the end and leave no ground for any tree. And Nagpur is one of the greenest cities in the country, and lot of greenery has got slaughtered in the redevelopment, because Nagpur has a lot of senior citizens, and most of the people are in Pune, including me. So it has become that the senior citizens are threatened that aap ghar bech do, and if it has already gone for a development where there is a housing society, and one member, so typically what has happened in Nagpur is you have a plot, say, of 10,000 square feet, the homeowners sold out 5,000, and there is a bungalow given to the previous owner, the owner, and there is a housing society. The housing, now the plot area in NMC is for that one, it is plot number whatever, one, okay, one number it has, yeah, it is a single plot. When the society starts pressurizing the old owner that hum redevelopment mein ja rahe hai, and there is a rule that if 90% of the members want to go for redevelopment because they will get more space, more apartments, blah blah, there is a monetary incentive behind it. So even if, so you're right about the maintenance, it's about, the hunger, and I think these inadequate plans or the DCPR that has come, which is killing for the development. I don't know when people will start running out of money. Eventually they will start running out of money because, even if they have money, they will not have the air to breathe and the pure water to drink. We drink from Mular river. It has got sewage contamination. So I don't know which way we are going. So this is a bigger question. So it's about the mindset of the people and the policies that are encouraging the redevelopment mindset that make it very difficult for individual homeowners even to retain to their plot. And I have example of JE Farm, which is very close to Kolte Patil, Life Republic. The kind of pain Neema Pathak is going through, and I'm giving her name in terms of how she is holding on to her piece of land which has got snakes and forest and her bungalow out there. So who can hold off in the view of the laws and the regulations which are very pro-redevelopment or pro-development or development? And the question is that, and I was talking to Siddharth, Earth has a physical capacity and every human being has requirements. Okay, and if we have to have a reasonable quality of life, the urban development context has to be in the context of quality of life. Okay, because this high rise with so many cars, sitting in traffic is not my kind of life. Okay, yeah, and therefore it begets a larger question as to how the urban development should happen, preferably where every human being has enough air. Children play on earth,
and breathe and not breathe the redevelopment dust.
Eagerly waiting to hear the concluding remarks and advice from our chairman for the evening. Therefore, may I request you to please.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you all for being very patient. I think what we have achieved today is something unique. We have got this whole green movement to a center stage. PIC, VKE, I'm sure MCCI in their own way, and a little bit in CREDAI also contributes to all these thought processes. And what I would like to just make a few points here, and before we conclude. First, let me address this whole issue that was raised by both the speakers to my left, which is whether it should be high-rise, high-density, low-rise, whatever. So that, because let me take the bull by the horns, and yeah, and the UDCPR. So, friends, and I'll address her issue also, which is about the redevelopment. Friends, I think that ship has sailed. The infrastructure in Pune is not really keeping up with the pace that the population is increasing. Low rise, low cost development is a myth today, honestly, because if there's an FSI for a reason, I'm not justifying it. I'm probably in private, I will always oppose it, but in a public forum, I must defend it for all the right reasons. And the reasons are that we have to cater to our population. You can't expect our population to keep going to 50 kilometers away from their workplaces and work. So that is why there is an FSI, which is for a reason. It's a tacit acknowledgement of our powers that be, that look, we cannot provide you the infrastructure to keep up with your population. So therefore, the only way you can do it is go high rise. And if it is high rise, it's high density, and we'll give you more FSI. Obviously, they are monetizing the FSI as well, so that's another story for another day. As a think tank and as people who are leading this green crusade or the net zero crusade, we must now not debate this point any longer. We should, in fact, devote our resources to finding a way where, in the current scenario, how can we meet the net zero obligation that is upon us by 2070 and for CREDAI members by 2050. So let us focus on what we have to do and achieve, and not debate on policy on this issue endlessly, because that is not going to get us anywhere. So that's my first point. Second point was there was some mention of the affordable sector, and affordable sector being probably unable to keep up with this whole movement of green or net zero this thing. And honestly, again, I mean, a lot of our developers do a lot of slum redevelopment, and the slum the redeveloped slums are all provided with all the facilities in terms of green buildings that are required to be done. In addition to that, we are required to also keep a corpus for these flat purchasers, and it's a sizable corpus. If I may mention that corpus, it's almost varies from 50,000 rupees per tenement to almost ₹1 lakh per tenement, which we are required to give the society at the end of the project, which is kept in fixed deposit, and from there the maintenance and management has to be done. And in the current new policy of the slum redevelopment, they have also required us to give an AMC for all the equipment that we are providing separately from this for 3 or 5 years. So there is a lot of effort that has been put in from a policy perspective. That it is not maintained is still another story, because finally they are not educated enough, and that is our job. So let's look at what are the tangibles that we should be aiming at, and we have to educate those slum dwellers that now that you have a house which is free, you have a corpus which is free, utilize it properly and at least live a nice sustainable life. So that's another issue. Third issue was the redevelopment that was raised, and look, there is redevelopment again for a reason. Let's not quantify it by saying that it's 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, whatever is the building life. Sure, you can run that building for 50 years also. Some of the buildings you can run only for 20 years. But that's not the point. The point is that the modern lifestyle has changed so much, and everything is changing so rapidly that the owners of those flats themselves, and because again it's the requirement of our growing population and nothing else, that they want a larger space, they have children, so, and they can't afford to buy another house, so they have, the only way they can go in for redevelopment. The society has the option that they can go for redevelopment anytime they want, and they are exercising that option. So there is this debate is probably a little pointless. They will go to for redevelopment when they start suffering from some leakage or the other, which is bound to happen. They are not devoting enough expense as a society in repairs and rehabilitation of the existing building, which is again a part of the crusade, part of the point that we should take up if we have to prolong the life of the existing buildings. But that's a story for another day. A lot of it has been said. I think what we need, honestly, and is a real, and we would like to request both these institutions, VKE and PIC. We are happy to partner with you in whatever, but let's have a policy paper firstly for Pune for green and net zero buildings and sustainable living. We are happy to partner with you for, and this I'm talking of only for real estate, obviously, because that is only our domain. So if we can do that, number one. Number two, I honestly, till I came here, was not aware that you could have net zero in Pune. And Gokhale Institute, I think PIC is doing a project. Sandeep ji has shown what he can do, and I mean it's really an eye-opener. Ganesh has also done a lot of things in his Shushrut project. So I mean it's while you may not achieve net zero, the target is at least if you achieve a nice green building and reduce your get to the first base, which is about 50% of the existing levels. The bigger challenge is that we have almost 360 odd million square meters of area which are buildings which are already in existence in PMR region, and for those buildings to be retrofitted to be green is again a bigger challenge. And here I would take debate with the societies and the members of our community who are misusing, I'll say it as blatantly as it counts, they are misusing the facilities that are provided to them. And I'll tell you how. For a simple reason, we are providing them STPs, we are providing them OWCs, we are providing everything because it is mandated upon us. It's something that is necessary, and it is required by law. The first casualty is the STP. Okay, the first casualty, because they go to the local corporator, get additional water supply, water connections, and then the first casualty is STP, the second casualty is the OWC. So what are we doing here? I mean, why we are wasting resources and nothing happens? They don't realize that for STP, if you have a separate meter, it's a green meter, you get much better tariffs for that. But nobody is implementing this even in the society. So these are things that again is part of a culture that we have to drive, and somehow it has to be all pervasive, all inclusive. It is not necessary only for one industry or the manufacturing industry or the builders or the consumers. It is for the old societies also. So this is something, this is a culture we should be driving towards. Friends, at CREDAI, we wanted to take this sustainable movement to a different level. So what we did was that we had two other initiatives which was parallel, and they were of great success, where we devised awards for our members who participate in these competitions. One was for the best facility award for labor, and those awards have been in existence for the last 3 or 4 years, and they have got huge response. 100 developers participate, and why for those awards? They are given in a grand ceremony at the end of the year. Likewise, then this year we also had a safety award. So what is the best safety practice on site? Now, for this year, we are now introducing, I don't know why it's called this, but it's we have formed a satsang group. I don't know why, the logic to this whole thing, but
That's different, that's kind of slightly different.
oh, okay, so whatever it is, but so we are collaborating with the AEEE, and we are devising awards for sustainability. The idea being that more and more developers talk about sustainability, so they'll come register their projects for these competitions. So I'm sure these two gentlemen here have an edge in those competitions because they've done such human work in this field. But if we can get about 100 developers who are participating in a competition for green building sustainability, and which we will have by the end of this year. So in September, October, we will run this competition. And so these are small steps in that right direction that we are doing. The dream of, or the theme of this conference was that we should have a discussion on net zero and come to some conclusions for real estate sector in Pune. Friends, I've always thought that Pune has a huge amount of talent and intellectual capital, more so than any city in this country. We are most of the times thought leaders in our country, and if we cannot do it in Pune, then I don't think anybody can across the country. So we must take the lead. Whatever it takes, we will address these issues for real estate. And I'm confident that if not now, but in another 8 or 10 years, we'll have reached the halfway milestone at least. So thank you all for being patient and have been listened to this whole thing. If with these 3 conclusions, if we can conclude, then we'll have gained a lot today. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. The intention was not to achieve something today in 3 hours, but to increase the awareness and share the urgency that across the board in all sectors, unless we become net neutral for PMR by 2030, there is a huge price to pay. Everything that is looking difficult will become even more difficult. And the net neutral is only half the story. Net neutrality in the carbon terms is only half the story. Rest of the story is restoration of the nature, which also we must do. So, therefore, whatever we do, we as a collective, it begins by mind thinking in the right direction. And there are many now authors who are writing books that the climate change or going neutral, earth neutral, will require a societal mind change. That's a far way, but it has to happen. So let me thank our chairperson, Mr. Naik Naure. Very insightful concluding remarks. And of course, we have a structure in CREDAI, and to make differences in a way that not only government will want to support it, but even society will want to support it. So I wish you all the very best, and we'll working together all the time. My special thanks to speakers, and probably you can do a better job of giving thanks. So over to Sanika.
Over to me, yes.
Over to Megha.
But before we disperse, I just wanted to give, we wanted to hand out a small token of appreciation for all our speakers. So I request Amitav sir to do the same.
Here is a book that you
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So with this, we come to an end of our event. On behalf of PIC and VKE Environmental, I extend a sincere thanks to everyone for their valuable contributions today, to our speakers for providing their valuable insights, to all the participants for taking part in the discussion and bringing out the key challenges and the key themes in our discourse today. And also, last but not the least, to Pune International Center for their organizational support. I just had two small announcements before we disperse. First is that ISHRI and NICMAR are organizing a green conclave on decarbonization and sustainability, which is happening on 3rd February. So please get in touch with architect Anshul, who is present in this room, if you want any further details for the same. Second is that Pune International Center is organizing a book discussion event, which is happening tomorrow. So the book is on enabling West to wealth and circular economy. It's happening at 5:30 tomorrow, and it's going to be an extremely interesting event. So we hope to find all of you in that event too. And with that, we come to an end. Thank you once again for your participation. And